Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
In so many ways, we are more than the sum of our parts and what people expect of us. And guess what? If you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals, and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and in a conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do, because quite frankly, you're listening right now. And if you are, subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Give us a 5-star rating on your podcast provider of choice. We're available pretty much everywhere, places like Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we'd absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on the social media. We're on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, the Letterboxd, the TikTok, and probably a few other places too, quite frankly, at In the Seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because guess what? If we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it even more when we come by and you come by and read about it and listen about it. So do us that kindness and pay us a visit. On this episode, we're talking a little bit of short film. It is that season. It is an awards season. And I mean, the voting is being cut off in minutes for the Oscars, and I mean, I think the BAFTAs, it already has been cut off, but we had the unique pleasure of taking in a film that was shortlisted from both of those organizations for the Best Short Film Award. It's called The One Note Man, and it's a really delightful little film. It's about a bassoonist, a man played by Jason Watkins, who has a strict routine who involves him bicycling to the opera house and playing his one note in the orchestra every day, and then going home and back to his life and repeating and so on and so forth. But it comes around that, this one note man wants a little bit more in his life. And, we see his journey, and we see sort of that come around. And it's a silent film. There's no dialogue, but it is one of the most delightful, joyous little pieces of cinema that I have seen in quite some time. I defy anyone who gets the privilege of watching One Note Man to not have an absolute smile on their face, because again, in this era of cynicism and negativity and everything that's out there in the world, this is 21 minutes of just putting a smile on your face. And I mean, it is such a joyous thing. I cannot speak on it enough. It is a beautiful little piece of cinema. But we had the unique pleasure of sitting down with the writer-director of the film, Mr. George Siougas, and one of the executive producers of the film, Mr. Josh Friedman, on sort of the origins of getting this project done and sort of making a short film, and the importance of short storytelling in the space right now. And I mean, we really had a fantastic talk, and I sincerely do hope that this does make it to the big dance for the Oscars and the BAFTAs, because this is really just, again, it's a gorgeous piece of cinema, and I can't wait for more and more people to see it. But please, when you get a chance, if you are a short film enthusiast, please check out The One Note Man starring Jason Watkins. But first, enjoy our talk with George and Josh, the men behind the film, because quite frankly, it's a darn good one. Well, I mean, just again, kick this off officially. I want to thank you both for the time today, and just congrats on the work on The One Note Man. I absolutely loved it.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
Now, I mean, George, I guess the first question is for you. Like, walk me through the origin of this this very sweet, but I mean, very funny story as well. Like, it evoked a little bit of Harold Lloyd in me as I was watching it. It was really sort of a throwback to sort of those classic, very earnest comedies.
Absolutely. I love silent movies, and the birth of cinema, of course, was silent. And like you said, also Charlie Chaplin and all those amazing movies were just constantly in my mind. But I guess I'm interested in the human spirit and human qualities like decency and compassion and courage, perseverance. And I always root for the geek in the movies. Like Jack Lemmon was my favorite. And I suppose there's something very Jack Lemmon-esque about Jason Watkins in this film. I'm also very interested in exploring fear. I think fear is within us all, and I'm interested in exploring its various manifestations. So when I came across this 1921 cartoon by an artist called H.M. Bateman, which was published in the funnies back then, called The One Note Man. And I saw the cartoon really is really about this man's routine. You know, he wakes up, rides the bus, goes to work, sits down, waits for his turn. He plays one note, rides the bus, goes home, brushes his teeth, goes home, and that's it. That was a kind of dark tone to it. Cartoon is a little dark. Um, and I thought, well, this is first of all, this is a brilliant, very clean idea for a
Mm.
short film. This musician whose job is to play one note, but immediately it sparked a lot of questions, and it tapped into these themes which I'm interested in. Why does he play one note? Is this a choice? Obviously, clearly he can play more notes. He's a musician hired in an orchestra, obviously. But is he happy? Is he sad? Is he complacent? Is he happy in this complacency? What is it? So I wanted to explore more about this guy. And the more I thought about it, the more I became fascinated by him and with him, and I wanted to journey with him. So I thought, what's the one thing that what if we pulled him out of this routine? And I identified with this complacency. I've been there, and I'm sure a lot of us have in many ways. And I thought, well, how would he react if somehow this routine was broken and he faced a calling which he could not resist?
Mm.
And what is the calling that we all cannot resist if it hits us in the head? Love. So I developed it. That was really the sort of the idea that from which this story really it became very clear to me that what the film should be about, and it's a love story, obviously, and so it asks these questions, David, and it's questions. These are questions that interest me, I guess.
I love it. Now, I mean, the film has such rhythm to it as well. I mean, particularly the sound design from, I mean, him brushing his teeth to the scraping of the toast to the bike bell. There is such, I mean, there's dialogue basically in the noises. You know, this is a film without dialogue, but I mean, through the music and the sounds, we feel the story. Can you talk to me a little bit about the importance of, I guess, the right noise for the right moment as you're telling the story?
Well, music really, and everything musical, I suppose, like sound effects, like you mentioned, and everything in it really are my only tools to help me tell the story. I have more tools. I have my images, and the actors provide performance, and of course the script, but music is a huge, very powerful tool. In this film, it actually becomes a third character. So Stephen Warbeck, our Oscar-winning composer, was my co-storyteller, and it was immensely important, not just for the parts that are musical, which are the obvious parts when the orchestra is playing, and then the score. Of course, the film has a score for the moments outside the theater, which is pretty much business as usual in terms of scoring a film. But as you said, everything suddenly all this stuff, when you have dialogue, it blends into the background a lot more, and it
Yeah.
becomes part of the atmosphere, which sometimes you don't even register. It's almost a subconscious thing. But with this, because there's no dialogue, suddenly everybody's listening, everybody's. So I was very aware of. I think sound design is important anyway, and I think the oral experience, the music is in the cinema experience. I think it's 50% of the experience, really. But you're right. A lot of care went into the rhythm, as you say, of everything. But it's also commanded by picture.
Totally,
So
yeah.
big picture really commands, an action, the action and Jason and in-camera rhythm also. It's not just about the editing, but the performance within the frame, within the one shot is important. Which isn't different from any other really, any other I guess a drama. All that is a scene has a rhythm, a natural rhythm, and commanded by the actors, and I guess the director, just like a conductor, fine tunes this stuff. But with this one, it was a little bit more meticulous like that because, I kind of felt it was more under the microscope.
For sure, for sure. Now, I mean, Josh, this is something I've always been kind of curious about because when it comes to short film, I mean, obviously I love short film, but outside of sort of the festival experience, at least most people don't quite understand, I guess, the means to an ends when it comes to making a short film, because it's not like you're going to be pulling box office from it or anything like that. Now, can you talk to me a little bit about just when a project like this does come across your desk and sort of the idea that it takes to sort of get it going? Because, I mean, obviously, you guys have such great steam going now, like you've been shortlisted for the BAFTAs, for the Oscars. There's a lot of momentum behind the film, which could turn into something. But I mean, I guess, how do you know where to sort of make that bet and sort of push on forward on a short project like this?
Well, I haven't made a short film since university. So it is a bit of a bet, like you say. But George and I started our relationship prior to this project, thankfully. And we're sort of on a ship in another water with a feature. And so George came to my attention through his agency. We have a project, and George was very vocal about his excitement over this feature. And it's been my experience that when people don't get excited often about things, and when they do, you have to pay attention. It's important for whatever reason. But in particular, George was very vocal about this feature, and we struck a relationship, and we're on a ship in an ocean, trying to get that sold. In the meantime, George has a day job and is a wildly creative guy, and I'm in awe of that, and very thankful that he thought of me to share this project at an early stage. And yes, it was a short film, but after reading the script and hearing about the other producers who were just as passionate and lovely and caring and warm, hearing that they were as passionate as George, it was hard to disregard this music, coming from the other end of the phone.
For sure.
So it's not a question of economics on this one. It's a question of love, and that transcends the project, both on the screen and behind. And I think it's what gives us flight. I think it's what's carried us among these great other shortlisted films. And so, not everything is about economics. And luckily, we also have that left brain or right brain thought. We have a distributor, NIT, Northern Ireland Television Network, something like that, right, George?
Network, yeah.
Network Ireland. And so we hope to sell. I mean, they're working away at bringing buyers to this film. We're excited to hear what the evolution of this film will be. But if the impetus was really out of something very romantic and lovely.
Well, and I mean, it lets the love and it lets the art form really shine. And I mean, I think, that's really the importance and really sort of why, at least from my perspective, why short film is so vital. And I mean, in seeing this, I mean, I was so happy to see, George, that you had Sir Ian McKellen doing the narration. I mean, full disclosure, Josh and I went to high school together. We're friends. And he told me a story about this, which I absolutely loved at the screening. I mean, I've got to ask you to share that with us because, again, it just speaks to sort of the importance of the art form and how it takes a village and just really all of us sort of helping one another get, beautiful projects like this made.
Well, Ian McKellen, he was an idea that my co-producer Michael Stevenson had, and he said, we've been talking about Ian McKellen a lot because he has a film fund through which, well, it's not a film fund actually, it's not accurate. It's an arts fund, and he doesn't really fund films, but it's more to do with theater.
Mm.
However, when Michael approached him because he knew him, Michael is also an actor, and they had done a play together. So he approached him with a script and said, "What if we make something of this that is educational, and we can show it in the theater? So we can show this to, let's say, children and a young audience. And what if the music is live? So the music, the movie plays to a live orchestra." And then we can teach the kids about what the conductor is and what the bassoon is, and maybe they can be cued to play their own little notes and all that, and it became an educational thing. And he loved it. And so he helped us finance the movie. So he was instrumental in the making of the movie. And we had that screening, and that was an incredible experience. The kids clapping and all. It was just incredible. It communicates to kids so well, this film. But then Mike said, and we sort of, I think Josh, I think that was your idea. I think Josh voiced it first. And we were so caught up in the thing. And Josh said, "Well, what you should have, you should have Ian McKellen voice it." And we thought, yeah, of course. It just makes perfect sense. It's just that he's never going to say yes. And as you have it, we sent it to him, and he saw the film. So we finished the film. So he had read the script. Obviously, he liked the script to help us finance it. But lending his voice, that's a different matter. So he saw it and he loved it. And he said yes. And off we went. And we were waiting. We had our meeting was at 10 a.m. at his home in London, in the docks. And he's bought the pub right next to his home, which is the one of the oldest pubs in London. And Dickens used to drink there. And you walk in the pub and you see the staff. Gandalf's staff is at the bar.
Love it.
And at that point you're it's an outer body experience. You're kind of you're in Disneyland, and you sort of experiencing some sort of surreal tour. And we walk in his house and there he is, and it's just amazing. But the sweetest man and kindest man, and open, generous, lovely, absolutely lovely experience. And he's the fairy dust, of course, to our Christmas story.
Totally. Absolutely. Now, I mean, I've got to ask because it's just such a ride that you guys are getting to get on because, I mean, obviously, as as we've said before, it takes a village really to make anything in this business, no matter where you are. And to be sort of recognized out of the thousands, if not tens of thousands of short films that probably get produced every year, I've got to imagine for both of you is a bit of a trip in and of itself. Like, how have you managed to sort of appreciate the reception that One Note Man seems to be getting all across the globe right now?
Well, it's very surreal. I come from a small place. I come from Athens, Greece, and Greece is a small country. And yeah, I grew up in a small suburb in Athens, and speaking a different language. It's a small market, and I've always been watching British films, and I grew up on Hollywood and Spielberg and Lucas, and I'm a kid of the 80s, right? So and it's always been a sort of wonderland, but also British films and the craft, and just to be recognized by the British, industry like that, but also Hollywood itself for the short list, as you say, just to be selected out of all these films in the world. It is just the hugest honor, and I'm so humbled. And I do have imposter syndrome. I look at my BBC pass, and I have moments very often where I go, "Why am I here?" So it's wonderful, wonderful, but also surreal, and humbling, and just beautiful.
I mean, it's a very similar story to myself. George and I are cut from similar cloths. I mean, you said before, David, we were high school students and in musicals together.
Yeah.
And, everyone has dreams. And I guess part of the gravitation to this project is it's a poetic embodiment of all of our dreams, that if we could just get out of our heads and if we could just dream and love and, play 2 notes, 3 notes, a whole sort of stanza of poetry, good things could happen.
Yeah.
And I think even in high school, I always believed that, if you build it, they will come, as corny as it sounds. But those are those movies that stay with you and get you up in the morning. So, it's a privilege to be a part of it, and the hoopla, let's say, of it all, it will come and go, and it's what gets others excited, and we're all just part of those kids in the bleachers. It just happened that we've worked hard, and people have recognized it for now. But I say this to everyone, like, we've made something really extraordinary, and that's the award, that's the privilege, and everything else is gravy, I guess.
Well, Josh is right. We dream for a living, and it's what the film's about. Also, it's one of the main themes in the film. The one-note man, when we first meet him, he stopped dreaming. His spark has gone out because of his loss. And I've certainly been there in my life. And I guess it's about that. It's about just never stop dreaming. None of us should stop dreaming. And
Absolutely.
if we persevere, we'll get there.
Mhm.
Now, I mean, just for both of you to put a bow on this, and I mean, Josh, I'd like your opinion on this first, because at least from my perspective, the short film has always been so important to the vitality of film and cinema as a whole when it comes to storytelling and just sort of getting different voices out there and really being established. I mean, I know growing up, us both being Canadian, the National Film Board was always sort of looming overhead with all the stuff that they had going on. But I'd love both your perspectives on why the short film matters, because again, in the world of Oppenheimers and 14-hour Scorsese movies and Napoleons and everything else in between, there is beauty and there is real talent to be able to tell something in 20 odd minutes like you guys have done here.
All those filmmakers that we revere, Chris Nolan made a short film. Everyone made short films. Chris did, I think it was called The Following or Unfollowing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
First, it was a short, and everyone does that. I mean, whether it's by necessity or design, you're young and you don't always have those resources, so the shorts are short. But it's even in Hollywood now, the short, the music video, those short form things, especially with young kids, it's an attention span thing, but these are valuable stepping stones to the next level, and it's a training ground. If you can tell such an interesting, unique, compelling story in a small amount of time, you're sort of given the keys to do that a little longer. I'm curious to see if short films will be exploited more, will be more prolific with streaming, and it seems like that Quibi sort of tried to attempt a kind of a real stance with that. But the short form film is sacred ground, I think, especially for filmmakers.
For sure.
100%. I echo what Josh just said, and it's usually filmmakers when they start out, kids, they don't have the means. We all start from short films. It's the gateway into the business. Also, cutting our teeth and our way of telling a story by any means we have. And today, kids can do that so much easier than before, because you just pick up your iPhone, you can shoot a
Yeah,
film, you can edit it on your iPhone, you can produce a whole film. So easy, just gather your friends and do it. So, these days it's even easier because the technology is there. It's not an easy format. Short films are tough formats. It's a tough format because you really don't have much time to emotionally involve an audience.
yeah, yeah.
So economy and storytelling is a good mindset anyway, but especially with a short, it's really important. So what better school to learn that, to be forced to think that way?
Totally.
So it's absolutely vital that we support short films, and again, now is a very good time for short films like the platforms like Omeletto, and there's more of a market for short films at the moment than ever before. Absolutely vital that we support short films.
No, I love it. No, and I agree with you both 100% on that. And I mean, with One Note Man, I mean, again, this is such a simple but such a beautiful story, man. I smiled from ear to ear the minute I saw it. And I mean, no matter where this ride takes you guys, just honestly enjoy it every step of the way because I mean, really, like you said, we dream for a living, and I mean, you guys are getting to sort of take it as far as you possibly can. But I mean, honestly, I wish you both, the best of luck with it all and just enjoy the ride. And again, thank you for the work and thank you so much for the time today, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, David. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
Thanks, Dave. Really
Thanks, Josh.
a great thing for us to be able to do.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.